Well, Razorback fans, we know Razorback basketball is still ways away, but there are still some people out there that just won't accept the departure of John Calipari from Kentucky. So let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks Pot at the Palace edition. I am your host, John Nabors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson, hanging out, talking a little basketball once again. And Curtis, it was a good first episode. The second one, I feel like, is going to be even better.
Yeah, I think so. You know, Coach Cal has been in Arkansas for about 4 months now. Why is it that Big Blue Nation can't seem to accept the breakup and move on? It's a little bit odd to me. Let me ask you this to get us started, John. How much do you think about Eric Musselman on a daily basis?
Dude, honestly, I think less about him than I thought I would. Like, I thought I would really, the only time I ever see or think about him is if I see one of these like national college basketball guys retweet him or something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, he's at USC, but that's about it.
Yeah. How many times have you spammed USC fans on social media when they get excited about, you know, Musk getting a commitment or bringing an NBA player to practice or posing for a pic with some random rapper at a concert? Do you do that?
No, because I honestly don't know that there are any USC basketball fans, but no, I do not do that if I did find him, though.
It feels like our friends at BBN need to start taking notes a little bit. I get it, though. Okay. Like, in all seriousness, John Calipari's time at Kentucky and Musk's time at Arkansas, that is not an apples to apples comparison, not even close. I think what I'm getting at here is, when does this scorned lover shtick kind of get played out? I don't know, John, like you fancy yourself a ladies' man. Have you ever been in a relationship where you've kind of known for a while, like, this isn't really working out? You're not too heartbroken when the breakup finally happens until you see the ex start showing up at the bar with, you know, there's someone else's eye candy. Like you thought it was over and you could move on, but you see her with someone new and it just sets something off inside of you. I feel like that's what we're dealing with right now with BBN. Can you relate?
No, never done that ever in my life. Never happened. But no, but you're right. Like, that's a perfect analogy. Like, that's kind of what it is. And it's like, I tried to maybe figure it out from an Arkansas perspective or a fan's perspective, like if there was some sort of comparison.
Yeah.
And I don't really think there is, unless like the only somewhat type of comparison I can make is maybe when Houston Nutt left for Arkansas to go to Ole Miss. And there's a lot of, but I think there's a lot more of people were like hating him because of how it all ended. And I don't know, maybe there is a little bit of comparison, but yes, it does give those vibes from the Big Blue Nation.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you know, Coach Cal is different, man. He's kind of his own brand. He's got this aura about him. He's a polarizing figure for sure. Definitely, I think one of those guys that a lot of people love to hate. I mean, we did it for 15 years, right? Well, he was at Kentucky, probably before that when he was at Memphis too, honestly. But I don't know, with the constant shots fired, and I'm even talking about media in addition to just the natural fan reaction. That's part of it. We're having fun here. But I mean, you'd think this man burned down Rupp Arena on his way out of town. Every time Reed Shepherd or Rob Dillingham, you know, makes a layup in summer league, it's this whole movement of, it's coaching malpractice. You know, did you know Cal didn't start those guys? He started DJ Wagner over them. So what? Both those guys wound up lottery picks. So clearly they played enough to get showcased and have high stock. You know, Kentucky was a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. They lost to Oakland. But it's because he's stubborn. He's stuck in his old ways and he won't change. Well, I don't know. Cal recognizes, I think, that he needs his rosters to get older in today's game. He said that. And he's built this team accordingly. So it sounds to me like he's adapted a little bit. Had too many mouths to feed on last year's roster, right? Too many guys once they got healthy. The rotation was out of whack. So now he changes his philosophy completely. He's only going 9 deep. Maybe he's not stuck in his ways. Maybe he's overcorrecting a mistake a little bit. So I think, John, like this, it's almost like there's this heightened level of salt involved because after some underachieving seasons, and he had those at the end there at Kentucky, he appears to be evolving now that he's dipped out from Big Blue Nation. I wonder if that plays into the fact that they're still talking about it. And he's been gone for so long now.
Well, and here's where I think it's going back to that whole Eric Musselman when he left and all that. It's about this. In Big Blue Nation, they will not admit this. But the reason Razorback fans or like us or whatever, we don't think about Muss is because, and I love Muss. I know you love Muss. But Arkansas upgraded at coaching. Like they have upgraded at the head coaching spot at Arkansas. And again, that's not a slight against Muss. That's just more of the compliment towards Cal. And Kentucky fans, they can say whatever they want. They can approach it however they want. They can scream. They can tweet. They can do whatever. But the reason they're thinking so much about it is because they know that they did not upgrade at head coach.
What would this conversation be like if they got Billy Donovan instead of Mark Pope?
Yeah, or Danny Hurley or whatever that they were thinking that they were going to get. Yeah, they probably wouldn't even think anything of the wiser. But you just can't under any circumstance. I don't care how much ball you know. I don't care what you say, how you do it. Right now, Mark Pope is a worse coach than John Calipari by far. And there is no evidence to suggest that he is going to do something at Kentucky that Calipari has not been able to do. Oh, Cal lost every year in the first round or second round of the tournament or whatever. Okay. Do you even know if Mark Pope's going to be at the tournament every year? Because, Muss, as great of a coach he was, let's be honest, he missed the tournament twice in his 5 years. It was his first year and his last year. He's a great coach with great recruiting, great all that. There was times he didn't make the tournament. Calipari has only missed the tournament, once?
It took COVID to keep Kentucky out of the tournament.
Just twice, yeah. So it's like, I don't buy that. And that's why I'm like, there's just no way that you can approach it where you're saying, oh, no, Pope's going to be better because of X, Y. He's a better X's and O's coach. You know what? Basketball, yes. Do you have to have some X's and O's? Yes. But it's still more about the Jimmies and Joes. Let's be very honest about it.
Agreed, 100%. I love the banter with Big Blue Nation, though. I really do. Every time, somebody tweets out one of Cal's quotes from a press conference, it's, I've heard that one before, enjoy your first round exit. Every time he gets a high caliber freshman, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. The sensationalism of every word, you just absolutely, you love to see it. It just enhances the rivalry. Oh yeah.
And also, did I see a story that was like written, I think, was it maybe Kentucky Sports Radio or On 3 or whatever?
Bringing this up.
Yeah. Was it the, thing about Big Z's like John Calipari has told Big Z not to shoot threes, and instead he's giving him Razorback chicken nuggets or something like that. I was like, that has nothing to do with anything. But I guess it's just them trying to lob insults because they can't say that's like, oh, well, we got this player over you. No, you didn't. Or, oh, we got this coach over you. No, you didn't. So what do they do? They're like, oh, well, chicken nuggets and not shooting threes. That's pretty much all they got right now.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I hope it keeps going, and I hope they keep having problems with it. So for sure. But what I also hope to keep going is betting, sports betting. We know the sports have slowed down a little bit, but sports are going to be revving back up here really soon, especially on the football side of things, folks. And that's why you need to check out FanDuel. And the summer's still going on. If you haven't noticed, especially from the heat outside, it is still summertime. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. Something for everyone, every day, all summer long. They're going to keep the sports going no matter what. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. It's FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Got a few more things to talk about. But, Curtis, I know that we have seen a little bit more additions to the Razorback roster. And it's been kind of fascinating because there's so much excitement for the first part of it. Not to say that there wasn't for the last, but it's kind of like, okay, we don't even care who these guys are. Let's just, great. Yeah, they needed warm bodies, but there may be something to some of these guys in the late additions too.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe BBN should be talking about the back end of their roster more than Coach Cal. My final thought on that, I love talking about it, but you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? You can't say that it's about the program and not the coach, but then allow the coach who's been gone for 4 months to still generate a ton of engagement and interaction for those who cover the team. So I love that Cal was at the TBT thing supporting La Familia the other day. That was awesome. The whole recruiting pitch of like nothing has changed, but the headquarters really went viral. But it's true, and that was kind of my point. Is John Calipari is his own brand, whether BBN likes it or not, and he's all hog now. So hopefully those guys can move on and put their hope in Pope. But I can't wait until we get closer to that game because it's going to be electric and the banter is going to be unreal. But you're 100% right about the back end of the roster. Late last week, Arkansas officially announced the signing of the final piece that we already knew about, but they signed him, the 3-star guard, Kashmir Chavis, which is interesting. So the roster's finalized. Feels like a good time to roll through these final additions. How much attention have you been paying to these last 4 or 5 guys compared to the first 9? Be honest.
Next to none. Just to be honest, I saw names and I'm like, okay, I don't care what their size is. I don't care where they came from. I don't care. They're great. They're a part of it. Awesome.
Right. And part of that is because of the way Cal sold it, right? He said, hey, I'm going to go get my 8 or 9. And then we're going to, like these other guys, they're walk-ons, but it's different now. They're going to be on scholarship, but they're going to have to work their way into NIL. It's depth. We want to have, a clear line of delineation there. So he kind of lowered the expectations there. But the truth is, like he said, if any of those guys earn their way into the rotation, good for them. One thing I liked is that he said every one of them can shoot. But what I want to know is who's the first up, when Arkansas is beating Maryland Eastern Shore by 40 in early November. Like, they're not going to play Nelly Davis 40 minutes a game against some of those teams. So who's going to come in? Plus Arkansas, they're a rolled ankle or two away from needing one or more of those guys to step up against SEC competition or at Madison Square Garden or whatever. So you might not have the highest expectations of these guys, Razorback fans. I understand that, but you need to know who they are and what they bring to the table a little bit. So to me, John, I think there are 2 guys here who kind of stand out as maybe the next men up, right? That profile. The first one is this Chavis kid that was announced the other day. It's not as sexy as the 5-star freshman trio, right? But this guy's not bad. I mean, he's a top 150 prospect on 3. If you look at where Chavis is ranked, he's right in line with where guys like Barry Dunning and Joseph Pinion were when they were coming out of high school. Not bad players, right? For a 10th, 11th man.
Yeah. He
was signed and committed to Washington, a Big Ten program. He had offers from Arizona State, Georgia, West Virginia. So some other high majors. Not bad. And so there might be something to this kid. You want to have expectations for Chavis like you do Boogie Flan? No, but maybe this is a guy who can slip in there and help you a little bit, and he's the next guy up in a pinch.
Well, see, and that's what I was kind of surprised about, because when I was, I was knowing about the players and seeing their names a little bit more than that, but I honestly thought that the rest of the time it's like, okay, well, it's just going to be, again, bodies, just people from D3 schools transferring in, walk-ons that'll help the GPA stay up. I don't know, like just guys that you need in there in the locker. So when I started seeing, was like, wait a minute, this kid actually was a highly ranked player coming out. I'm like, why so late into the process? Why did it take so long? And what type of role will he play? That's kind of the thing where I was almost shocked by it, because it was just like, I expected it to be nobodies. And then you actually got somebody that was a somebody, and somebody that had offers and got recruited by a lot of other big schools too, but decided that Arkansas was the place he needed to be.
I mean, we would be stumping for Mike Anderson to get a raise if he signed this kid. So it's not a bad pickup. This is a dude that can play. It's not your typical into the game in a blowout, and it's we want whoever to come in and shoot a 3 and get everybody to go crazy. This kid's not bad. The other guy, you mentioned D3 players and everything. They do have a D2 guy that I'm actually pretty interested in. It's Melo Sanchez. It's worth noting, first of all, that Kashmir Chavis and Melo Sanchez are 2 great basketball names. I mean, come on. Names. I absolutely love that to have on the roster. Arkansas has not been a good 3-point shooting team for years now. That's one of the biggest question marks on this team too. Do they have enough of it? Melo Sanchez shot the heck out of it for 2 seasons. It was D2. It was at Hawaii Pacific, but he made 147 threes in 2 years. That's a lot. Maybe he's a guy that could be an emergency zone buster. I know that the SEC, it's obviously a different world than whatever league Hawaii Pacific played in. But I mean, there are success stories out there from guys transferring from D2 to D1. Shout out to your Boston Celtics and Derek White, a guy who was a D2 player. Max Strus with Miami Heat, NBA role guy. Jalen Wells went from Division II to Washington State. He's in the NBA now, but Arkansas recruited him heavily out of the portal a few months ago. Jack Golke, Coach Cal knows that name. He had 2 threes on him for Oakland. Chaney Johnson is a guy who transferred from a D2 to Auburn last year, and he didn't put up crazy numbers, but he was in their rotation, played every single game for him. So you see that. So, you got a guy like Chavis, who's a top 150 prospect, a guy like Melo Sanchez, who's a really, really good Division II player transferring up. So there's a couple guys there who you think, hey, in a pinch, we throw them in there, we're not really going to be hurting.
Well, and I also look at it too, where, he shot, was it 46% from 3? Something
crazy.
To that.
His freshman year, he shot it like crazy.
Yeah. And so I'm pretty sure, but the 3-point line is the same distance in D2 as it is in, D1. And also pretty sure the goal is the same height. So yeah, is the competition going to be different? Of course it is. Like, I'm not naive enough to think that he's going to walk in and shoot 46% from 3 just straight away. It'd be nice if he did, but if you could shoot threes, you can shoot threes. It's kind of the same thing when it comes to like free throws. If somebody shot really good free throws from the previous year, from the previous spot, you think in most cases that they will. So, he's just not somebody that that anybody should look at and be like, oh man, 3-point shooting, make or break. It's going to come down to Melo Sanchez and whether or not they get it going. But it's nice to at least have that option as a late addition and a late option for Arkansas if they need somebody like that.
Yeah. Who knows? At some point they're gonna need one of those guys to stand up. I like them. They made some other additions. I was going through the socials last night, I guess it was, just grabbing as many picks as possible for our articles and everything like that. The guy who showed up more than anyone else in summer practice stuff that was put out is this Jaden Carletwa, and he is very much an unknown. He's a late bloomer. He didn't even have a recruiting profile. I mean, if you go to 24/7 or On3 or wherever, you're not going to find this kid. So it was really interesting when Arkansas picked him up. You're like, who is this? But he's about 6'6", looks good. He's got a good frame on him. He shot 49% from 3 as a high school senior last year. That line is a little bit closer, but man, that's really letting it go. So maybe that's a guy that they identified somehow, got a tip on, and they thought, you know what, maybe this is someone that we could develop as a late bloomer for down the road. So you never know. Then there's the La Familia guys, right? Coach Cal has his connections, man. So Aiden Kelly, another little guard with, he's got a reputation now as a gym rat, a really hard worker. That's exactly what you need on the back end of the roster, is a guy that's just going to work hard, push guys. He's the son of Antonio Burks, who Cal coached at Memphis. There you go. Kareem Watkins, a grad transfer from Kentucky. He's DJ Wagner's brother. He knows the system. He knows the staff. Glue guy. Those are the kind of guys you need there. So I don't know, man. Like, it's not as flashy as loading up with a bunch of transfers, but you can kind of see the vision there, I think, and the method to the madness with what Cal is trying to do. The only thing missing from this, and I don't know if you've noticed or not, they brought in 5 new guys, all guards, no big men. I found that interesting. I went through and looked at the portal. There were a lot of guys at mid majors, low majors, who are just big bodies, who have some experience. There were 3 3-star forwards who are 6'9" or taller in the 2024 class that are still available. Was kind of surprised they didn't go get a big guy, not because you need him to play, but Big Z, Jonas Adu, Trevin Brazil. Who are they going to practice against with Lawson Blake out with an Achilles tear? I don't know. It's kind of weird. Yeah.
Maybe they'll go and have some, random football players that are walk-ons that are big offensive linemen come and play for practice. I don't know.
Who was the football guy a few years ago that?
Man, there's been a few of them.
Bell?
Jamario Bell. Yeah.
Jamario Bell. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Play D end, then tight end, then basketball, apparently, because that's what he does. So yeah, we'll talk about some of the other things about with the late additions and also who could stand out the most. But I got to tell you folks always about your passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning a championship is also what keeps your ride or die alive, and that's what you do with eBay Motors. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and leveled up to peak performance: superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. So with all the parts that you need at all the prices that you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, so with these late roster additions for the Razorback basketball team, I want you to say that guy's name again. That's his first name's Jaden, but what his last name is.
Jaden Carletwa.
Carletwa. Sweet. Okay, I nailed it. That's the only time I'm ever going to say it. I'm just going to call him Jaden. But, you know, you were talking about his three-point shooting, and I was looking at his bio on ArkansasRazorbacks.com. He shot 94% from the free throw line. And that's the thing is, like, I do not care who you played for or where you're at. Go out, have anyone go out and shoot 100 free throws and see if they make 94 of them. Yeah. I know that there's different, but still, that just shows you how incredible of a number that is. And, you know, that's maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but it tells me, I'm like, this is somebody who puts in the work and has an extreme focus on what he does. Because that's what I've always felt about free throw shooters who are elite. Because listen, there's nothing I feel like more boring to do in practices and in games or whatever than free throws. It's just, you're not moving. You're just sitting there in the same spot. Just keep going. But it shows that somebody like this, it takes time. It takes patience. It takes work ethic. It takes a lot for someone to get to that number. And, you know, is he going to be a guy that where if there's a technical foul and you got to take someone off the bench and he shoots it? Maybe. But I don't know. I just felt like that says a lot more about his overall approach and practice and his work ethic for somebody who's that good at the free throw line.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that is maybe that's what they saw in him that they liked. You know, you look at those numbers, okay, man, this guy can really shoot it. So like he's got one translatable skill. Is there enough there for us maybe to work with him and develop the rest? And you look at his frame, you know, 6'5", 6'6", got a little bit of meat on his bones. So yeah, I mean, maybe they think there's something there that they can develop down the road. It's pretty interesting, John. You know, they asked Coach Cal in his presser, you know, the NCAA is moving the scholarship limit from 13 up to 15. So 2 more scholarships to work with. And so it was like, hey man, are you going to change your philosophy now with these extra scholarships? You still going to stick to the 8 or 9 man thing? He's like, nope, don't care. He said, maybe I can give some more scholarships to walk-ons. Maybe I can find some GAs who still have some eligibility that I can give these to. But nope, 8, 9 guys filling out the rest with depth. Sorry about you. So keep that in mind when we get to portal season and they have 9 guys and people were beating down my door saying, who's next? Who's next? Well, according to Cal, nobody. He's sticking to his guns. So there you go.
Well, before we get out of here, I'll ask this question to you. Of all the guys we just talked about, these late additions, these walk-ons, however you want to put them, I feel like every year there's always one of these types of players that gets to double digits in a single game. Who would you say is the most likely of all the players we just talked about to get to double-digit points in a game this year? And it could be in an exhibition game. It could be whatever, but just which one of these guys you feel like is the most likely to get double digits?
I absolutely love this. I'm going to go with Kashmir Chavis just because I think he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot when he's in there. I mean, he profiles as a point guard. He can create probably off the bounce better than any of those other guys. So I could see him being the dude that comes in the second half of a blowout and just kind of goes nuts down the stretch against UCA or whoever. So yeah, I feel pretty good about that one. Melo Sanchez would probably be my number 2 just because he can shoot it so well. You know, you knock down a couple threes, you're already over halfway there. But I don't know if he can put it on the floor and create as much as a guy like Chavis can. So I'll go with my man Cash and we'll see what happens there. But I think you're right. One of them is going to do it at least one time over the course of the season.
I'm going to go with Sanchez because I don't know. I just feel like it could be one of those blowout situations and he comes in and there's about, 8,000 fans left in the stands still because it's a, Monday night like game and the students see him and they're like, oh, and he hits a 3 and everyone's like, yeah, this guy. And then he hits another 3 and then he just starts feeling it. And for the final 5 minutes, he's He's just a bucket. So give me old Melo Sanchez or Carluetta, whatever you say his name, because I want to hear John George say his name multiple times when he hits shots just to see if he gets it right. But there you have it, folks. Appreciate everybody listening in to the Locked On Razorbacks Pod at the Palace edition. For Curtis Wilkerson, I'm John Nabors. Same sports show, same sports channel. Tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. We'll see you then.